Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Great to have you here today on this Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where the topic is getting down into what is most likely to spike your blood sugar levels. So why is this topic so important? Because yes, it is on a Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday show, which means we are always trying to promote wellness and help those who need to lose the weight or keep the weight off to really focus in and drive down on the things that truly matter. There are so many fads out there. There are so many quick tips out there, but they simply don't last. They're not going to give you the results that you need, especially in the long run. So we want to help you take the weight off in the short term or boost that metabolism in the short term, but we don't want to sacrifice long-term results. So our goal is, what can we do in the short term, but at the same time, make sure you're not struggling with these body transformation issues for a lifetime. Now, this is also information that even if you're not trying to lose the weight, you want to really follow and abide by. And the biggest reason is this, is that if you have many fluctuations in blood sugar throughout the day, you are going to age at a faster rate. You are going to create more oxidation in the body and free radical damage. This shows up as thinning of the hair or hair loss, wrinkles on the skin, thinning of the skin, more inflammation in the body, slower recovery between exercise sessions. I mean, I could go on and on. Joint pain, overall fatigue, inflexibility, anything related to inflammation. And again, if you want to go back, I would love you to check out the show, episode 1566. So you can go to stephencabral.com/1566. My goal with every podcast is just to try to share back even just a few shows. And you can continue your learning process because remember, no one podcast, no one article, no one book is going to solve all of the issues that you're really trying to look into. However, accumulated knowledge with action will result in change and then eventually permanent change, which again is what I want for people. Yes, I want short-term results. I want to be able to help you take the weight off. I want you to be able to work on that anti-aging based program, but I don't want you to do it to the detriment of your future self, right? So that's what we want to do. And again, I've just seen so much frustration over the past 20 years and people saying, well, I tried this and I tried that, I did this and I did that, and then they're right back to where they were or worse. So I want to give you things that are tried and true. You don't need to go on a carnivore diet. You don't need to go on a keto diet. You need to follow tried and true, meaning like these things have always been done and always worked out. True nutrition and exercise and basically the de-stress protocol, right? It's not one thing. A lot of people have tried diet. A lot of people have tried exercise. Well, what happens next? Well, you need to look into the overall metabolism. You need to look into hormones. You need to look into toxicity. You need to look into sleep. All of those things matter as well. So I just want to give you a few today. These are the main ones that you want to look at. And I know that in future weeks, I'll be going much more in depth on other topics as well. So first things first. A lot of people talk about, well, what's causing all these fluctuations in blood sugar in the first place? And a lot of people go right to carbohydrates, and I get it. I understand. Carbohydrates in the longer run cause blood sugar fluctuations mainly in those people that have had chronic issues with inflammation and blood sugar dysregulation. So what does that mean? Well, it means this, that over a longer period of time, they have either grown up with or they've just continued to consume high levels of processed food and starchy carbohydrates that, but again, come from more of a flour basis or crackers or chips or things like that, or candy, etc. Now, why does that matter? Well, here's why. If you take something in and you even say, oh, well, this is a whole grain bread, anything that you could take in your hand and basically just, you can probably hear that noise right now with my hands like that, right? If you rub that food together between your hands and it essentially falls apart or disintegrates like a cracker or chips or flour, it's 9 times out of 10, that food is going to spike your blood sugar. Okay, even chips with the higher fat content. And I'll get to the fatty foods in just a second, like those chips. So here's the issue. Yes, those things are an issue, especially for the endomorph body type or the kapha body type in Ayurveda. That means that they're already going to be more susceptible to blood glucose fluctuations as a endomorph body type. And again, a lot of pros to being an endomorph, but blood sugar is one of the issues that goes along with that. Blood pressure sometimes being another. And again, that can lead to type 2 diabetes over the long term. No one pizza, no one sandwich is going to lead to type 2 diabetes or blood sugar issues. It's the accumulation of eating processed foods or just continuing to snack throughout the day and keeping that blood sugar high all day long that's an issue. And I would love you to go back and listen to my podcast on why 3 meals per day. Because remember, if you are not snacking throughout the day, you're going to better be able to regulate those blood sugar levels. And of course, there's caveats to all of this, meaning that if you're more of an ectomorph, you're more of a Vata body type, if you run that hair tissue mineral analysis that we call the minerals and metals test, and you're a fast oxidizer, well, you might need a mid-afternoon snack. You might need a mid-AM and mid-PM snack, right? It's possible. Children need that, right? Kids, for the most part, you look at them, they're always moving, they're always active, and they're always hungry. They're fast oxidizers. They need breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a snack in between breakfast and lunch, and a snack in between lunch and dinner. Now, that doesn't mean they need to eat all day long, but what it means is that, yeah, they're going to need a little bit extra fuel. But as we become less active, we become a little bit older, our metabolism isn't quite as fast, our digestion is a little slower, we don't need those 5 meals per day. And again, I used to be into natural bodybuilding and I ate 6 times per day. And I was able to stay lean doing that. But again, it's not necessarily the healthiest thing to do, but for sure it does work with body transformation, which is why I always like to share with people what you do for health is not always best for body transformation. And what you do for body transformation is not always best for health. And we know that going on a super low carb diet can help, at least in the short term, with losing body fat. There's no doubt about that. We do a lower carb diet very specifically in our Fatlocity weight loss program. But after 3 weeks, well, we start to add them back, carbs back in there. Now, of course, vegetables are always there and they're always unlimited. But we start to add other carbs back in because we know for health purposes, we need to do that. Very, very important. And if you are following a carnivore diet or keto-based diet, I'm not coming down on that. What I want you to understand is that there's a time and place for everything, less so for a carnivore-based diet. But what I want to share with you is that that is a short-term fix to a long-standing problem. And it's not going to solve it. So please go back, check out my episodes on gut-based dysfunction and how that affects people who are feeling better from being on a carnivore-based diet. Again, I'm not coming down on any individual or any one diet. My goal is to serve people the best of my ability, and I know from a clinical-based perspective that is not the answer. So, next up, yes, carbohydrates, we want to eliminate those, especially processed foods, right? When you look at your plate, you have to ask yourself, do I see this food growing in nature? And yes, not every food you're going to be able to see growing in nature, but for the most part, they should look that way. You know, last night I had salmon, I had sweet potato, I had really nice asparagus, and yeah, that was it. That was my plate. And then I had olive oil on top. Now, the olive oil, I can't see that growing in nature, but I know that it came from one single ingredient, and that's olives. Cold pressed, organic, first pressed, in a dark bottle. Like it's good quality olive oil. The salmon, well, I know where that's coming from. And then the Japanese yam, it's one ingredient. Asparagus, it's one ingredient. So when I look at these foods, I say, great. And they're not going to spike my blood sugar. And I'm not doing a massive amount of starch. But again, some people can eat a lot more starch than others, more towards the ectomorph side, and they don't get that blood sugar spike. So the goal is to eat the carbs and the right amount of carbs for you. Now, the next one that people oftentimes, I would say, misalign is fruit. And fruit can be highly beneficial and is highly beneficial. especially low glycemic berries, cherries, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. And there's also other low glycemic fruit as well, like kiwis and grapefruit. All of those are excellent. Now, in the very beginning, you might need to eliminate those if you're better trying to regulate healthy levels of blood sugar. But eliminating them for a short period of time, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, does not mean that you can't add them back eventually. And again, that's what we talk about in our fat velocity system, and I tell you exactly what we do. We eliminate those for 21 days, and we start to add them back in very strategically. And we say, okay, how does your body react? And next week, I'll try to do a show on signs to look for elevated blood sugar if you're not using a glucometer. Okay, so there's many different ways to do that. And if you don't know what a glucometer is, you can just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in GLUCOMETER. Okay, so fruit, they are not going to spike your blood sugar in someone with healthy levels or a balanced body and balanced cell membranes. That means when you eat carbohydrates, your body takes the fruit in, it begins to digest it, it moves to the bloodstream. If it's fruit, it also gets processed by the liver, the fructose at least portion of it. Not 100% of sugar from fruit is not fructose, so not all of it will. And then what happens is your body, if working properly, will release just the right amount of insulin to shuttle the glucose where it needs to go, to the liver, to the muscles, or whatever it might go. So it is only the excess that is detrimental to people. Now, again, in the beginning, you may need to go lower on that as you are better adapting your cell membranes as well as your pancreas or pancreatic response with insulin. So there's some cells called beta cells, and they're going to release the right amount of insulin. Now, if there's something wrong with what's called cell membrane dynamics, and that means the bilipid membrane of these cells in your body, so those bilipid membranes or the outside membrane, bilipid just means 2 layers of fat or 2 fats, and if that is not allowing the insulin, which is like a key, to unlock the door to the cell and allow the blood sugar in, well, now the sugar is just going to sit outside of the cell. That is where we start to get elevated levels of blood sugar. That is where we start to see those hemoglobin A1C levels or HbA1c levels climb to 5.7 or above. And we look for those all the time. That is a sign that you're moving towards or have type 2 diabetes. Now, you can also look at that on a glucometer in the morning. And if your levels are at 95 or above, or really in the 90s, and that's after a, let's say, 10 or 12-hour fast overnight, it's something to look for because that needs to be improved. You really want to be between that 75 and 90 mark, 89 mark when you wake up in the morning. And again, anyone can test this. Sometimes that spike, well, why don't I jump to that right now? So sometimes the spike in the morning can be actually from what's called a cortisol awakening response. And your cortisol levels start to spike, and then what happens is your body brings in glucose. I'm not going to go through that. I've gone through that many times on how the body breaks down glycogen, stored glycogen, and actually raises blood sugar without you even eating any food. And that's why there's more to this than just carbohydrate intake, right? Higher levels of stress, higher levels of cortisol can spike blood sugar all on its own. And actually, I'll jump to this one right now. And that is why drinking coffee on an empty stomach, if you're prone to dysregulated blood sugar and higher levels of cortisol and higher levels of fight or flight, can actually spike blood sugar in the morning. So it's also why I recommend drink that coffee after breakfast. You're going to get a more regulated and adapted response to that caffeine, and it could actually help with some digestion. Now, you don't need to take in caffeine, you don't need to take in coffee, but it could help. Now, this doesn't happen with everyone, right? So I've done many podcasts on this, and I always like to say, I'm not the bad guy, I'm just the messenger, right? I just want to bring the message to you. And if you want to test it, you can easily just test it. All you have to do is use your glucometer upon waking, right? Find out what your blood sugar is. It's very, very simple. It's just a little finger stick. And then have your coffee, and 20 minutes after your coffee or so, just take your blood sugar. And if it's spiked above 100, well, you know that caffeine in your coffee is actually spiking your cortisol levels. So it's a very simple metric to look at it. The healthier you get, the less blood sugar spike you'll get. And also, it's actually a fairly simple fix. You'll just do half decaf, half regular, or you'll switch over to decaf, or you'll have breakfast first. And so there's lots of ways to mitigate that. If you love coffee, you can still enjoy your coffee, but you'll just want to look at, is that doing you more harm maybe than good? So it's simply something to look at, and it simply might just be the amount of coffee that you're drinking. All right. Another one I want to actually, because I'm a little out of order for how I was going to do it, but I actually want to jump back now to different types of foods. A lot of people think that, oh, well, it's a high fat. I'm putting fats with my carbs. Well, here's the thing. That is one of the fastest ways to put on body fat. It really is. A high carb, high fat diet is one of the worst things you can do for your health and your overall body weight. It really is. When you spike blood sugar, let's just call it chips or pizza or something like that. Cheesecake's a good example. You spike your blood sugar with the fast-acting carbs, sugar, right? Glucose. And then an hour later, 2 hours later, you're shuttling in the fat from the meal as it's being digested through the stomach. So now your sugar's high. Now your insulin's high. And now you have fat coming in. You have fatty acids. It really is a recipe for putting on body fats. It's not a good thing. So we have to be careful. That's why, diets higher in carbs can actually work. There's a lot of people doing diets higher in fat, lower in carbs can actually work. But when you combine the two, it's unbelievably detrimental for your health. Unbelievably detrimental. Now, the last one I want to share with you is people on a carnivore diet who don't think that they're spiking their blood sugar levels, because some people are, just like coffee. Some people aren't, some people are. But if you have a big steak for dinner, take your blood sugar level an hour later or 2 hours later and see what it is, because remember, it's not just about the glycemic index, which is how quickly your blood sugar could spike from a food, but also from the glycemic load of a meal. It's called the GL index or GL rating. And any meal that's very heavy or very high in protein can spike blood sugar. A really good example is whey protein. I'm not saying that whey protein is necessarily bad for everyone. And what if you get it from a grass-fed or green-finished New Zealand cow? Or what if you're getting it from goat's milk? Well, some people it could work well for. It's not something that we just don't promote a lot of dairy in our practice because we know it's the number one IgG food sensitivity. However, let's just say that you do take it in and it's perfectly healthy for you. The immunoglobulins help, all those great things. Okay, fine, I can get behind that. I've seen the science behind it, and I agree in some instances. Here's the issue, though. It very well, taken on an empty stomach, could spike your blood sugar. Just like a steak by itself could spike your blood sugar. So I want to be careful with always making carbohydrates the bad person, the enemy. I also want to look at just eating in general. When we overdo any one macro, carbs, protein, or fat, we're going to run into problems. And that is why I'm always erring on the side of what's worked for thousands of years. And that's a balanced nutritional plan. It really is. It's balanced. The majority is vegetables. It is good, clean veggies, lots of fiber. Add in a little bit of fruit and berries. But I won't go through all of that today because I'm getting off topic. If you want to go back and listen to just kind of like a day in the life of my Mediterranean diet, which is, again, you don't have to follow what I do for sure. All I'm doing is I'm following off of thousands of years of Ayurveda. And I'm also following off the longest lived populations in the world. And they're simple foods. It's easy to eat. That's episode 1551. But again, go back to what a show I did called The Foundation of All Diets. And that's really on the Mediterranean style diets. And again, I stand nothing to gain by promoting the Mediterranean diet, except that you're going to be healthier. You're going to be a healthier human being by following a lot of those same food groups. Now, do I promote a lot of bread and a lot of that? No, I don't. I promote whole food nutrition. And yes, I do my smoothies every morning, and that's a supplement to my whole food nutrition. Because again, if you've read The Rain Barrel Effect, if you've listened to my podcast on soil degradation, you know that the best diet in the world is simply not going to supply you with 100% of all your vitamins, minerals, and nutrients you need for the day. It's not going to happen. I run labs every single day for thousands and thousands of people all around the world. And I can tell you for sure that if you are not using a good quality daily nutritional support or daily activated vitamin or some type of nutritional supplement, you're going to be short. You just are. And it's, again, like, use your favorite functional medicine company in the world. But I'm telling you right now, it is part of being a healthy human being. It's part of the de-stress protocol. Remember, it's only one piece: diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest, emotional balance, supplement protocols, and success mindset. Notice supplements is one of 8. It's not number one. There's no one better than another. It's whatever one you need, but you need all 8. And that's only one part. Okay, couple more to go. and that's alcohol. Now, alcohol will initially spike your blood sugar when you drink it. Here's the other issue, though. It typically drops your blood sugar throughout the night, and then you get what's called rebound hypoglycemia. So you actually go low blood sugar, and because of that, your body says, whoa, what's going on here? It jumps you back into fight or flight, produces more glucocorticoids. You start to break down sugars within your liver or wherever else is stored, maybe muscle tissue. You become more catabolic, and now your blood sugar spikes. So you get this highs and lows from drinking alcohol, especially before bed. So that's why we have to be careful. You want to enjoy a drink or maybe two once a week with friends or every couple weeks or once a month. Fine, no issues. Blue zone based diet. There's no additional prevalence of cancer with that. When we start doing more than the 2-3 drinks or so per week, we have to be careful, especially with people with methylation issues, liver detox issues, already prone to inflammation, already having issues with sleep. Okay, so let's talk about hypoglycemia while we're on that topic. There are a lot of people out there, more of the ectomorph body type or Vata body type, and we also have to be careful with them because sometimes they will actually get a spike, or I should say, yes, a spike in blood sugar, but it's because of a subsequent or previous drop in glucose or blood sugar. That means they may have had a meal that was actually higher in carbs, and then they really digested that too quickly, and then they dropped low in blood sugar. And then after that, they got more cravings for sweets or whatever it might be. From that low blood sugar, they got the cravings, and then they spiked their blood sugar from just going back and forth, back and forth. So we also want to be careful for these people that are a little bit more prone to hypoglycemia. I am more prone to hypoglycemia and rebound hyperglycemia, which means I drop low and then boom, I spike right back up. So what happens is this: when you drop low, you start to produce more of that adrenaline sometimes and the glucocorticoids to break down sugar from your liver or your muscle tissue and become more catabolic, whatever it might be. But we have to be careful there as well. And the best way to really combat that is with a meal that has a good amount of protein in it, a fair amount to keep things level. We've got some carbs in there to get that blood sugar to where it needs to be, and then also a balanced amount of fat. So that's why meals really should have a good amount of fiber, some protein, and some fat. And I've shared this with you before, but it's actually quite important. You want to make sure that you're satiated for a couple hours after that meal. If you eat and you're hungry an hour later, try adding a little bit more protein to that meal. It doesn't work for everyone, but it does work for most that I've seen in my practice, especially those with hypoglycemia or rebound hyperglycemia. So really, really important to look at that. All right, one more I want to share with you today is this. There are many people out there who are not dealing with their blood sugar adequately simply because they are too sedentary. And I say this understanding that there are many people who can't get up and move as easily. So I get it, and I understand. Believe it or not, for those people, a sauna could even help. Getting in a sauna, believe it or not, will begin to act like exercise on the body. Now, will it have a tapering effect over time? Yes. But that means hopefully that you're getting healthier and you're going to be able to get out there and even just walk. Being sedentary means that you are not getting your 10,000 steps per day. And I don't say get out there and do 10,000 steps a day. I'm saying get out there, and if your average is 3,500, simply do 4,000 steps a day this week. And then next week, maybe try 4,500. The next week, 5,000. The next week after that, 5,500 a day. Take your time. It's only about an extra 10 minutes or so more walking. That's all that it is, 5 to 10 minutes more. But it's deliberate. And if you can do it after meals, you will be astounded, especially if you're someone that tracks your blood sugar. You will be absolutely amazed at how it helps with what's called postprandial glucose levels. So all it means is this. After dinner, especially dinner, go for a 20-minute walk. A leisurely walk, not a brisk walk, just a leisurely walk. It's going to help with digestion. It's going to help balance blood sugar levels, and you'll most likely even get a better night's sleep, which is really a big part of getting that body healthy. So hopefully this was helpful today. Again, all of these things matter. No one more important than another. Look for the ones that in your life might be throwing you off a little bit as well. So when we add them all together, we become healthier, we become happier overall, more stabilized moods, and of course, we're going to be able to rebalance those healthy levels of blood sugar. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If it was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to StephenCabral.com/rainbarrel.